This is maybe the, I don't know, 100th plug I've converted. Hello and welcome to My Man the Maker. Today we're going to talk about how to convert a plug that looks like this to a plug that looks like this. Now you'll notice that there's one distinct thing missing here. I may have two pins, but I'm missing this pin. And you may wonder what's going on. The reason why is because this is a double insulated appliance, which means that it does not need a ground, and that's what this is. This is the ground pin. So to plug in this vacuum cleaner here in Hong Kong, we either need to use an adapter. I happen to have one right here that has this on one end and this on the other. But that's a little inconvenient because you have to buy a whole bunch of these to get your European appliances to plug into your Hong Kong style sockets. So what I do is I normally just chop this off and wire this plug in. The only thing you really need to keep track of when you do this work is which lead is the hot lead and which lead is not. And the wires are typically color coded. So let's see if there's anything on this plug that tells us anything. There's nothing on the plug that tells me anything of any kind of importance. So when we look inside the wire, we're going to see two colored inner wires, and they're either going to be red and black, brown and blue, or some combination thereof. And we'll be able to figure out which lead is the hot lead and which lead is the neutral. On this plug, the lead is labeled. You can see it's neutral on this side, which means that's the blue or black wire, and it's live on this side, which means it's either the red or the brown wire, and this is the ground. In our case, using this appliance, we don't need a ground because it's a double insulated appliance made in Germany. But you can't plug this plug in without the ground pin, because the way Hong Kong sockets are designed, there's a gate that gets pushed in by the ground pin that allows the live pin to be inserted. So if you take the ground pin out, you won't be able to plug this appliance in. And what I'd like to do is I'd just like to make this appliance a little more convenient to use. You can of course stick this on the end, but they tend to fall off. It doesn't really get held in all that well. And the even cheaper versions of this plug, they don't get held in. They make poor contact. So I just go ahead and change out the plug. So I'll show you how to do that. To do that, you need a couple of pieces of cardboard because you'll be cutting some wire. You need cutters. You might need a pair of needle nose pliers. You'll need a screwdriver, and you'll need some wire cutters. So let me just switch out that plug and I'll talk while I'm doing it. First thing I'm going to do is make sure I'm in frame here. Okay. You cut off the plug. Now if you want to fool around with this plug, I mean use it later, you might want to leave yourself a few inches of cord so that you can connect it to something else. I always do, even though I almost never reuse these plugs. I don't know, it's just an old habit. So I'd take off maybe 2 inches above. You just cut that off. Next thing we need to do is remove the sleeve and expose the two wires inside. So let's just make sure we've got that on frame. And we do a score down the center, very gently. And then you push down and separate. And what that'll do is that'll allow you to unzip the insulation without cutting the inner wire. You just grab one of these wires. So you take the pliers, you hold wire down, and you take one of the wires and you just unzip the insulation. We're going to be taking some of the end off, so if you drop that knife in there and had nicked the insulation, it wouldn't matter because you're going to be removing the ends. So what we have here is we have a blue and a brown. So what does blue and brown mean? Well, brown is hot and blue is cool. So this is live and this is neutral. So we take our diagonal cutters, and that should be enough for us to have fun inside the plug. Okay, so far so good. So we have a removed European German plug. Mrs. Maker really likes this flexible neck, so she may ask me to change this plug again in future for one that has this neck. I like them too, they just don't happen to be featured in the plugs you can buy in the store, but she's sourcing some with a flexible neck, so we might do this video over again. So remember, blue is cool or neutral and brown is live. So what we need to do now is expose a little bit of the end. So you take the flat part of the diagonal cutters and you close them a little tiny bit. Actually, these ones have, I think, a wire stripper built in, so I'm going to give that a try. That one's too big, so maybe it's the next one down. Yeah, that's okay. So we'll give this get a little more insulation off of there. That's about right. Okay, and we'll do the same thing to the blue. I actually used to have really beautiful wire strippers, but they're in Canada. I have to get myself another pair. So they're making do with this situation. Okay, so the live, you kind of just twist that together nice and tight, and this nice and tight because a screw is going to be holding them down inside the plug. The other thing that I often do, because of the way the inside of the plug is made, is the end of the brown should be right around the beginning of the insulation of the blue. So let's do that. Let's just trim the brown down. Okay, and then we have to restrip it a little. That should do. And it's just because the brown has to travel a shorter distance inside the plug. So that's looking about right. We have, just make sure I capture that all on camera. It's very frustrating when you don't do it. So we have a brown that's where the end of the brown is about at the length of the insulation of the blue, and the brown are both stripped around 1 centimeter each, and then twisted together. So what I'll do is I'll just twist them once again, because I obsessively twist wires. I don't like having little stray whiskers. They're a real problem. It can cause all kinds of trouble. You do not want whiskers sticking out of especially on the live. That can cause an arc and it can cause a fire. Okay, so let's get this situation straightened up here. I got a bunch of wire ends and copper bits and cardboard and insulator, so let's just get that out from underneath this situation. Alright, now the next thing we're going to do is open up the plug. Now the way this plug opens, it's got 3 screws. This one is the main screw for the enclosure. So that center screw in the top, that holds the clamshell together. So you loosen that guy up and the back should pop right off, as it did. And then when you flip it over, that screw will fall out. You just put it in the cap for later. Here we have a, what do we got here? 13 amp. It's a standard fuse for this type of plug, at least out here it is. The blue always goes, when you're looking at the inside of the connector here, the blue goes on the left, and it's even labeled N, and the live always goes to the fuse. So that means that if for whatever reason there's a short circuit, more power is going to get drawn through the live part than the fuse can handle, and the fuse will blow. If you reverse the wiring on this plug, you will not only break electrical code, you could also be injecting live power in the neutral of your home. And that means that other people working on the electrical in your home would assume, stupidly, that there's no power in the neutral. There shouldn't be. But many places I've seen them reverse wired because people have just not thought through or have not understood what needs to be done. So the red or the brown goes to the fuse, the black or the blue goes to the neutral, and if you have 3 wires, this appliance doesn't, but the yellow or yellow-green or green goes here. I would say probably green, yellow, green. If you have a yellow wire, you might want to look at a wiring diagram, because sometimes the yellow wire stands for 12 volts in some applications, DC applications. But if you see a yellow wire inside of one of these plugs, you stop and start researching, because you shouldn't see a solid yellow wire. You should see either green or green-yellow striped. Anyways, getting back to this wire, we only have 2. We've got a blue, and now you see why they're cut to different lengths. The blue needs to go up and drop down into this connector, whereas the brown just needs to jog right and enter that connector. So just, through having done dozens of these, maybe hundreds, I don't know, a lot, I've learned to cut everything so that it all kind of just works inside that enclosure. And this is a strain relief. It's very important that you actually install this. The problem is that sometimes there's not enough thickness on the wire. So what we do is we often take the discarded insulation from stripping the wire and we put it behind, or we put it around, and that I would put it behind, and that means that the wire doesn't flop around so much. So that's what we're going to do in this installation, but I don't need that much of it, so I'm just going to use about half. I just need enough to back up, to be a backing for this wire. Some people wrap. I can try wrap. See if a wrap works. There. So that should be enough thickness. And if it isn't, I have another piece that I can use to wrap the front or wrap the back again, but that should be enough. So let's take this apart. This is very easily taken apart. I'll just put the wire down. So these 2 screws here hold the strain relief in place. And you just unscrew that guy. He pops right out. And then if you want, you only half unscrew this one. And that way you don't go, like, parts don't go flying. So now we should be able to lever this out of the way. Okay. And then just preemptively, let's unscrew the blue. Unscrew the brown. Let me just check. We should be able to just feed that in now. Okay. And the last thing we need to do is take a screwdriver and bend the blue. You want that thing bent so it curls right back on itself, and you want no whiskers on any of these wires. So that's kind of what it looks like when I'm getting it ready. So we have the sleeve ready. We drop in, just slide the brown straight up, and then you drop in the blue like that, you see? So those guys are ready, and we've got our insulator in place. We've got our little shim, which is the extra insulator, in place, and now I can just take this screw that fell out, insert it in the back, and get it started to hold down the wire. I just want to get it started. I don't want to crank on it yet, except I didn't make the hole. I gotta make the hole. There we go. Just a couple turns. Okay, everything seems to be coming together. So first one to put in is the brown. So that might not be loosened up enough. Okay, that should just go on in there. Yeah, you see the brown is inserted to the point where there's just a hint of copper left there. So let's tighten that guy up. The screwdriver's just a little on the big side. And then the blue, you just poke her in with the screwdriver. There we go. And it'll want to pop out, so you can hold it with your finger and then just tighten this guy up a little bit. And let's make sure it's in there. It's not. Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, there's nothing else coming anywhere near it. So, okay, it's good enough. And that's the assembled plug. But I think what I'm going to do is just get the right size screwdriver, because the one I have is a bit large. Just give me a second. I'll go grab a smaller screwdriver. Okay, I have a slightly smaller screwdriver, which should give me less trouble. Just test it on the neutral. Yeah, it's looking good. And let's tighten this one. And let's tighten this one. Okay, that's good. That's good. Now we get this insulation placed just so. Remember, you want it underneath this bracket here, right? That's looking good, and let's just tighten that up. That's starting to feel pretty good. That's nice and tight. Oh, yeah, without a wire to hold it in, this blade often falls out. There we go. You can only insert it one way. Okay, and then we put the shell back on. So we're just take a look and make sure everything's nice and tight. And also, this is the last check to make sure you wired it right. So the live should go to the fuse, and the cool should go to the return pole. So you have red or brown going to the fuse, black or blue going to the opposite pole or opposite blade of the plug. Just make sure we're all nice and tight. That's looking good. And then we put the back on, and we put the last screw in. There we go. That tightens up nice and easy. And there you have it. So we have a plug that's been wired, changed from German, here it is, changed from a German to a British style, with only two wires, a brown and a blue. The brown goes to the live. Now I flipped the plug over, so now just look for the L. The brown should be going there, and the blue should be neutral. And if you look at the plug as you wire it, the brown is on this side, goes to the fuse, and the blue, which is the neutral, goes here. In North America, the black is the hot wire, the white is the cool wire, the red is the hot wire, the black is the cool wire. The brown is the hot wire, the blue is the cool wire. Those are the ones that I know. So to watch your color combinations, because in some circumstances the black is hot, and that's in North American 110 volt wiring with smooth 14-2 wire, which is a copper conductor, a black hot, and a white neutral. If you see a red wire in your wiring, that wire is hot, and the black is neutral, but that's off in 220, so you want to be careful when you're fiddling around with that stuff and do your research. In terms of this wiring, it's pretty straightforward. The blue is cool, and the brown is hot, and the brown goes to the fuse. So that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. I do these things all the time. I do this switch for Mrs. Maker all the time because she buys appliances from all over the place, and they end up with coming with the weirdest plugs. Australia's got some strange plugs. And then we have to convert voltages too sometimes, using voltage converters, so it can get interesting. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. I really enjoy having people tell me about what they think and share with me what they think I should be doing and their opinion about what I might do next. The feedback is really important to me. Subscribers are super important because they show me that I'm doing something that people are interested in, and they encourage me. I do this all the time. Mrs. Maker just asked me to record what I'm doing anyway, so that's what I've been up to. And I'm starting to really enjoy the recording part because it documents and captures what I've been doing, so I can show people what I've been up to. This is maybe the, I don't know, 100th plug I've converted, but I've never actually captured it, so this is great. And I guess that's it for now. Take care and keep making.